Hi, my name is Marcial Caballero. I work for Arm & Hammer. I'm a part of technical service. My role is as an animal productivity specialist. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to evaluate days and close-up utilizing DairyCom. In DairyCom, to calculate days and close-ups, you have to enter an event. The majority of the time, this event is called too close. And the reason you want to do this is because that's the only way you can calculate when the animal went into the closed pen until she came fresh. A quick way to check if the data entry is being done correctly, you can run the following command. If you type events \5, it'll give you a summary of all the events that have been entered on the last year for the entire herd. And what we're looking for is the event to close. So right away I can see that in this particular cow file that I'm looking at, the to close event, it seems to be entered consistently. Once we know that the to close event is being entered correctly, we can then come up with several questions that we're going to ask the program, so it can give us different angles of looking at days and close-up. The first question that we're going to ask the program is the following. Are the cows spending sufficient time in the close-up pen? To answer that question, we're going to use the command sum. That's going to give us the average days and close-ups. So we can run sum days and close-ups for lactation greater than 0. This will give us the average days and close-ups for the entire herd. It's a quick way to know if we are meeting our goals. And in this particular herd, the average is 24. You can actually get more of the command by saying by lactation group. That's going to give us the same 24, but it was basically broke apart by lactation group. So we can see how many days in close-up each of those groups are spending in the close-up pen on average. This is a good command to find out if there's a different policy management-wise, how we handle any of the particular groups. For example, if sometimes you will see the lactation 1 are being handled differently the way we move it to the close-up pen, this will be a quick way to know whether or not that is the case. Important to know that an average is a number. It's a good number to look at, but it's not telling us the entire story. We don't know what is the distribution of the data, but again, it's a quick report that allows us to see the average days and close-up for the herd. The next question that we're going to try to answer is how often are cows being moved to the close-up pen? To answer that question, we're going to use a graph that will help us to visualize how often are we moving those animals to the close-up pen. So we can run the graph command, and in this case we're going to use to close, which is the event. So if I hit enter, I will get an answer where I can see there is a policy where we move animals on a weekly basis to the close-up pen. That's one answer that I get. And then what I can see some gaps in the data where maybe what could have happened that cows were moved to the close-up pen, but the data was not entering the system. So these are good reports to try to figure out the opportunities to be more consistent. So now we can basically ask more questions to management whether or not, in that particular week, again, we moved the cows but were not entered, or did in fact we did not move animals for whatever reason on that particular week. Many of these graph reports, you can also click on report on the bottom tab, and you will be able to see that data that that was used to generate that particular graph. The next question that we're going to try to answer is, what is the distribution of days in closeout for the herd? To answer that question, we're going to use also the graph command, but in this case, instead of the toClose event, we're going to use graph, and we're going to use days in closeout. And basically what we're seeing here is the distribution of the data, how the data is contributing. If we remember in the previous commands, the average was 24, but now we can see how is the data, how is the data contributing to that number. Animals on the right, those could be mistakes, that data entry or something, something else going on. But the cows that I tend to look is the ones that are on the left. Those are animals that they did not spend enough time in the closeout pen. Just for as an example, if I look at animals that spend less than 14 days in the closeout pens, these will be animals that more than likely will have issues on at calving, just because they did not spend enough time in the close-up ration. Another way that we can look at this kind of graph and to look at the distribution, we're going to use a similar command. So we're going to say graph days in close-up for fresh date greater than, less than 365 days. Basically what this is telling the program to go back 365 days, from whatever set that you have in the program. So now we're gonna say by fresh date. The reason I'm doing this because I want to obtain a scatter graph out of this command to see distribution and how the data is being entered and how the cows basically are moving into the closed pen. So if I hit enter, this is the kind of graph I'm gonna get. I know that the average is 24. But now I can see, visualize exactly how those animals are being moved to the close-up pen. I can see, these animals on top. Again, those could be the data entry was not entered correctly, or could be something else going on with those animals. But one of the things that I always look is how many animals spend, for example, less than 14 days in the close-up pen. So I know that this is the group of animals that are going to have issues with transition, and these are the ones that I want to minimize and reduce the amount of animals in this window. In this particular herd, they do a great job moving animals on time, base and days carrying calf to the close-up pen. But again, there's always room for improvement, and that's what we're looking for. We just want to make it sure to find the opportunities so we can be more consistent. The next question that we're going to try to answer is what percentage of the cows are spending less than 14 days in the closed-up pen by lactation group? To get to that answer, we're going to use the percent command. This time we're going to type percent days in close-up greater than 0, days in close-up less than 14. We're going to do it for lactation greater than 0, fresh date greater less than 365 days. So we match the graph that we have in display, and we're going to do it by lactation group. If I hit enter, it's going to give me this kind of report, and it's basically telling me that 2,243 cabins, out of those, 62 of them spend less than 14 days in the closed pen, which represents 3%. Good report to look at if there's a different policy or which animals are contributing the most to the percentage. Then we can make an adjustments and management, to deal with those animals and reduce that amount of animals. Again, this particular herd do a great job moving animals on time. Our goal should be 0 here. We know that that's not realistic, but that should be always the direction we point into. Notice that this time I used days in close-up greater than 0. The reason I did that is because there's always going to be, if I type, for example, days in close-up equals to 0. So basically now we're saying what percentage of the animals that caught in the last year had a days in close-up equals to 0. If I hit enter, we're going to see that we have the same amount of cabins, but 14 animals out of those cabins did not have any days in close-ups. So again, this is a good opportunity to improve. Basically, we just want to make sure that we don't have any animals that the data entry is being done consistently. This concludes how to evaluate days in close-up utilizing dairy count.